start the recording, let it run for a second or two, and then we will just get rapping about chiropractic and the love.
There you go. It's going to be about love today.
It's all about love. All right, you ready?
But there was a lot of superfluous things that I used to do when I wasn't as straight of a chiropractor as I am now. I mean, I got rid of all the little extra toys and all the stuff that the lease payments and stuff that cost me a ton of money.
Hey guys, Jason Ulsrud here, and you're watching Rockstar Interviews. And today I had the awesome pleasure to connect with Dr. Kevin Hay, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Or is that Hotlanta, Georgia?
Hotlanta right now, or Catlanta, since we're in basketball season for the Kentucky Wildcats.
I don't know why they call it Hotlanta. I think it's because of all the hot women out there, right?
Well, that's a good part. I found my wife here.
There you go. There you go. Well, I wanted to put you on the Rockstar Interviews today because I want to share Kevin Hay with everybody that comes to the Rockstar Project, not just M52. And before I get started, I just wanted to thank you for the blue books.
Awesome.
I got them, and I just started reading the Reggie book today, so I'm super excited about that and learning about that, especially in his recent passing. So that's going to be an awesome book to read. I really appreciate it. And today's show is all about love.
It is. And that's something you and I have talked about a lot. And as I've watched the N52 and watched you progress over the weeks with this, I've seen some frustration and some different things that I can really relate to. And I watch it on a lot of the Facebook pages that I'm on, where depending upon different coaches, different past attitudes, a lot of people want to control or protect themselves from patients or practice members leaving or doing something, which isn't really good for the practice member. But to make a long story short, what I found worked for me, and it may not work for everybody, but after I was introduced to a book called Real Love by Dr. Greg Baer, it changed my life. Next to the Bible, it's been the most influential book in my life. And it helped me just love people where they're at. I don't meet them where they're at because I don't want to be where they're at. I've been there, and hopefully I've moved on. And I'll move somewhere else again eventually. But I will love them where they're at. And I'm not going to control them with contracts, with buyout clauses, with all the different things that I hear chiropractors that are frustrated saying, they came for 1 month, saw me for 12 visits, and then canceled their membership the next month.
Right.
And my thought is, love them anyway. I think that the barriers that we create, and let me preface this before I say that, if this isn't powerful, if you can't really love through this, if you can't say this is how I feel the most comfortable and the most powerful, then it isn't for you. Because you can't be resentful. And I used to be that way. I would take care of folks, and they would go get their nails done and go to Disney World and do everything else, and I got the bottom of the pile. They would tell me they couldn't pay me, and I would still take care of them, and I knew they were doing all that other stuff.
Well, how do you cross that bridge from being that way to where that doesn't bother you?
That's where that book came in. And between that book and me having watched, I'm in the Bible Belt here in Atlanta, watching churches survive on about 10 to 20% of the people paying their tithes or dues, if you will.
Okay.
And the other 80% either give a little bit or give nothing. And I thought, I see some of the happiest people are pastors. And if the church can survive at only 20%, making the payments, I thought if I got my overhead in line and if I got everything checked down just to the bare minimum, and I mean, I still have a nice place. It's not like I'm skimping on things, but there was a lot of superfluous things that I used to do when I wasn't as straight of a chiropractor as I am now. I mean, I got rid of all the little extra toys and all the stuff that the lease payments and stuff that cost me a ton of money, and I can operate without staff. I can operate a very skeleton schedule right now, and without a lot of toys. So my overhead's in line, and by keeping that low, Now I can just serve people. And to me, serving them doesn't mean enforcing a contract or calling them and saying, well, you left at this point in time, so I need to go do my calculus and figure out how much money you owe me at the per visit charge of what it was. And not that I'm downing anybody that does that to protect themselves. I get that. I just find it a lot easier, and it brings barriers down when I say, you know what, God bless you, I love you, I'm still here for you. When it becomes a priority again, I'm here. And I'm not going to make it a priority by giving them a contract.
Right. Now, I love that, and I love that mentality. It seems a lot simpler to me. But for a chiropractor, and I'm kind of in this position now, that's just kind of in that, I guess, startup mode or that survival mode or whatever you want to call it. It's difficult to just let people go whenever they want. You know what I'm saying? And so I think because of that, I tend more towards putting, a membership, like a setup fee or a cancellation fee and those type of things to try to encourage them to the 12 months rather than just quitting whenever they want.
Right. And I bet, at least after 12 years of doing this for me, I like what you said, that it's simple, because it is. It's simple and it fits my personality. Even when I had contracts that people left, I didn't enforce it.
Okay.
It was there hopefully to deter them from leaving, but if they did leave, I was like, God bless you, we're not going to charge you that. The doors are always open. I've seen others that do go after them. In fact, I've had people that have become practice members here that came from other places, and they said I had to wait 6 months because I was locked into a contract and I didn't like what was happening, and I had moved farther away from that place, and I wanted to come to you, but I couldn't. And I never wanted that to be said about me, that someone's like, I'm locked in going to Kevin because of the contract.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, this is something that my wife and I talk about this all the time, is that when people in the community cancel their gym membership or they cancel, XYZ membership and they're charged a cancellation fee or whatever it is, they seem to not balk at it usually. But when a chiropractor does that, or, when I do it in my practice, there's this big, controversy over the fact that I charge them that money. And it's like, I don't get why, it's okay for your gym to do it, but not me to do it.
Well, you'll get it. You'll get it right now, because for us to do memberships is completely against the grain of what they think a doctor should do. Now, you and I are in very different type of practices. We run a membership practice.
Right.
And that is not when most people come in, they're not thinking, oh, I can do a membership. They think you're the doctor, I'm going to pay a copay, I'm going to pay a per visit fee. So we've already kind of shocked them having that. And then for us to go after them for a cancellation, to them, we're not like a gym. And so I can see where they would be confused, going, okay, this just doesn't seem right. Why is this doctor doing a membership, and now I'm leaving and he wants me to cancel? It doesn't gel to them that we're a gym.
Okay.
That's why I think they're that way.
Okay.
But transitioning to this is, you just get to a point where you say, you know what, I love people more than I resent them. They're going to make their own choices. I know that there's people that pay me less than what they pay a month for their cigarettes, they pay a month for their booze, they pay a month for their going out and partying. I'm just glad I'm in the mix of what they do value. It really, Brian Lieberman helped me with this at a DE one time, the only DE I ever went to. And I think DE is great. It really helped open up my heart. And Brian specifically was the one that led me to that book, Real Love.
Okay.
And through that, I decided, you know what? Just love them, accept them, and serve them. And any of the choices that they make, that's in their own head. I don't have to get in there. Now, what I'm doing with you, with the website, and with some other things, is I know that if I can educate more, that hopefully some of the matriculation will go away, because then they will choose to stay because of good information. And I probably only have 10% that wind up dropping out before a year anyhow. I think by keeping the barriers down, it's just one less thing for them to kind of balk out.
Okay.
And so it's only 10% that do it. And out of the 10%, 95% of those come back again within a few months because the door's wide open.
Okay.
If I had it's going to be $300 for you to cancel, I'll guarantee you they would not have come back.
Right.
and they still refer people. I have plenty that of the 5% that haven't come back, they're gone for whatever the reason is, but they've referred in tons of families to me.
Okay.
So I just like to keep it simple like that, and I always tell folks, listen, God told me to serve you, and He'll take care of me.
Right.
And because at the first visit, I will tell them, here are my fees, and it's kind of like, well, I'll tell them, if you want to pay a per visit fee, you can go for it, but I don't recommend it. It's $55 a visit. If you want to come in 2-3 times a year because you hurt your back and that's your reason for coming, which is not what I do, but if that's your reason for using me, I'll be happy to serve you and remove interference from your nervous system so you can function at your optimum, and it's going to be $55 a visit.
Right.
Please don't do that. And that's why I tell them, now here are my memberships, and I show them the membership levels, and I explain, this is like the tithe, if you will, at church. This is the 10% that I think you should be able to do. Now, while that amount is reasonable compared to the $55 a visit, if it's not budgetable, if it is not in your budget and you really want what I have, I will not turn you away. You name your price, you name a fee that you and your family can come month in and month out, a price that you're not going to have to call and cancel when your air conditioner breaks down, but a price where you can be taken care of like I take care of my own family, and I'll work with you. And then I tell them, I know you're sitting here thinking, well, why would I ever pay the higher amount if you told me you'll take whatever I'll give?
Right.
I said, you know what? God will get you if you don't do your best. I'm not worried about it. You be honest with yourself. You'll feel so guilty. You won't get good results. You'll quit and drop out, and I'll know that that's the case. But I'm just here to serve you and to love you. Please find an amount so we can put the money away and not have to mess with it. And usually within 5 minutes, they figure out the amount. They leave it on my front desk, and I say, come back next time, and we go from there.
So do you think that the, I guess the people that drop off, the 10% in your case, in my case, I don't really know what it is. It's not great, but I don't have a lot of people like you do. The people that are dropping off, of course we're going to get some anyway. I think that's just the nature of the business. People moving, things like that. But I think that there is some that drop off for lack of understanding or education, those type of things. That's been my experience. Right. And that's where I'm really trying to tighten up my education process and my practice. So do you see that as one of the big reasons why people, drop off of a membership fashion practice?
Yeah, I do believe, and that's why I'm working with you on the website to where I want to upload videos, and I want to be able to have, different 2-3 minute long videos to explain different topics. So if somebody comes in and says, here's my issue, I can refer them to the video, and if it makes sense and I've earned it through my explanation, they'll stay with me. What I find more often than not is somebody entered in the paradigm of believing that I was going to fix their back, and even though every visit from the beginning I explain that's not what I'm about, I tell them, I'll put my hand around my throat and say, if I was being choked but I'm still able to talk, do you think it might be better if I didn't have this hand around my throat?
Right.
I get full oxygen in. And they're like, yeah. I said, that's all I do. As a chiropractor, I look for interference on your nerves. I remove the pressure. Now, whether it allows you to do this, this, and this, or that symptom or this symptom to get away, that's immaterial. I just know it's bad to have pressure on there at all.
Right.
So your goals may be pain relief within X amount of time. And that may be unrealistic. But I understand those still may be your goals. And so some of the old timers, they might try me for a month and they're like, well, okay, let me sign up for a month. And then after a month they go, well, my back's better or whatever. And these are like this, 70-year-old guys. I know going in they're probably not going to stick. But I love them and serve them anyhow. And sometimes they surprise me and say, you know what? Everything else starts to feel so much better. My wife says I have so much more energy. Everything else is going great in my life. I want to stick with it.
Okay.
And then another percent don't. And I don't judge them for that. They know that I'm here whenever they need me again, and then they refer in their grandkids. I just want to keep barriers down to where they know I am here to serve them. I am not a doctor. I don't want to go by the title. I love Reggie and his thought process of taking chiropractic out of healthcare and just being a servant, and we're here to serve.
Right, right.
And it allows you to me, by getting rid of all that other stuff, it frees me up to really be that servant and to do what I was trained to do in school, because I wasn't trained to be a collection agency or a banker or an enforcer of contracts and different things like that.
Right. That's the big way I guess I have to weigh out charging those cancellation fees, those type of things, and having a potentially disgruntled person out there in the world
Right.
versus just canceling it and being done with it and letting them go. I have to say though, that's a tough bridge. That's a tough transition for me right now to do. And I don't have a lot of people canceling, but I do get one or two. I have one coming up, and I planned on charging her the cancellation fee, but in hindsight of what we've been talking about, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet or not.
See, I would almost be inclined to say, Mary, I know that the paperwork you filled out has a cancellation fee. But let me tell you what's more important to me than the money is you and the relationship that I have with you. And I want you to know you're always welcome back here. And I'd have to ask her, why are you leaving? Mm-hmm. And if maybe, say, if you're not comfortable to tell me right now, maybe you will at some point in time, maybe you'll send me an email. But I want you to know the door's always open. I'm going to cancel that cancellation fee. And I hope they'll be able to be a service to you again someday.
Okay.
And if that doesn't resolve the issue with her to where she comes back, I'll promise you, you'll have it'll be a better taste in her mouth for her to tell other people in the community that, you know what, I went and tried him, and maybe it's a technique issue. Maybe she thinks you're too light,
she only came in twice, so.
Too rough. Maybe she's one of the ones that thought chiropractic was something different.
Yeah.
And I think those guys like us that do the memberships, we get people into them pretty quick right in the beginning, and after 2 or 3 visits, they might be like, "Oh, this wasn't what I thought it was," and so I'm okay with that. Again, if they came to my church, and on visit 1 and visit 2 to my church, it seemed pretty normal, but on visit 3, we started handling snakes and speaking in tongues and chanting and having fire.
Yeah.
I'd say this is not what I signed up for.
Well, what I've started doing, and I make it very clear on that very first visit, if they're here to get something fixed or something treated, they're in the wrong place. That's not what I do at all, and I go through the differences between chiropractors that do that versus what I do. So I think by the time they sign up for the membership now this is just recent, but by the time they sign up for their membership now, I think they pretty much know what I'm doing.
Well, see, and I'm also good with if they want to try it for a month. We've talked about the Reggie's program, You Be the Judge.
Yeah.
And this is what I really recommend if somebody's just starting. You're doing nothing anyhow. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but it's like you're sitting around, you're doing nothing. Instead of putting $500 into an ad in the newspaper or going and standing at a screening, which I think screenings are great, but why not make every day a screening and let people know, you know what, meet you at a restaurant, I'm doing a special this month, we just want people to understand what we do. This whole month of care is completely free for you and your family, and there are parameters. Maybe you make it mandatory that they watch a video you have, or that they read an article that you wrote, and then they qualify for that. And so you're getting your hands on people, you're getting better technique because you're adjusting so many people.
Right.
And at the end of that, if only half of however many people you sign up hang on, it's better than putting money into the newspaper. And so I look at if somebody signs up for 1 month and they've now had an opportunity to experience what I have, to see the social validity, and this is where when you get busier that happens, is the social validity of other people in the waiting room.
Yeah.
And they talk amongst themselves. So it does take a little while for that to build, but that in and of itself will help keep people. And I'm fine if a few of them at the end of it say, you know what, thanks for the month, Doc. And when they say Doc, I already know their headspace was somewhere else.
Right.
None of them go, thanks for the month, Kevin, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And what I'll also do, quite honestly, if somebody goes, I had a practice member do this recently. He said, I've lost my job, my wife's been out of work already, and we need to cancel our membership. We've been with you 10 years and we need to cancel the membership. And I said, membership's canceled, no problem. I'll see you next Wednesday.
Right.
He's like, what? And I said, it's canceled. You're not going to pay another dime. I'll see you next Wednesday. And he said, well, we can't do that. I said, well, if you feel you need to give something, you can contribute and do an offering of whatever you want to do. I'm here to serve you. I'm going to take care of your family like mine. And again, like a church, if you lose your job at church, they don't kick you out because you're not offering anymore.
Right, right.
So I think when people, who was it? Somebody said they don't care what you know, they just want to know that you care.
Right.
And when you really honestly can get past the money and say, I care about people, and this is what Lieberman really did for me. he kicked me in the rear at that DE because I'd gotten kind of treatment oriented and tried to learn these techniques to fix people. And he's like, he goes, hey, you had one of the biggest hearts before. What's going on? Who hurt you so bad that you got like this?
Right.
And turned me onto that book, and I just finally let go, and I said, you know what? I'm going to lead with the heart. And it can't be broken because God's the one that fills it. So I don't worry about that. And I know some people may say, well, this sounds altruistic. Mm-hmm. Anybody that would want to contact me, I could show you my numbers before, and my peace and my joy and happiness before, and I can show you it afterwards.
Sweet.
And it is so much better on this end.
Right.
So much better.
And I think that's what we're all working for. It's just the map isn't set. There's no clear map of how to get from point A to point B. And so it's a struggle trying to find the way here.
It took me 1 year to go from 80 treatment visits, lovely people, but people that I was treating, and I, even though I was doing it mainly straight, but I was still treating this condition, that condition, and we were discussing conditions, 80 visits a week to over 300 a week in 1 year, and transitioning it to the, we're removing interference. Right. Simply because it's there. Right. Do some people still have a confusion as to what I do? Yes, and that's why, again, I'm working with your website to help clear that up. And 90% of the people that come in here, they're like, great to see you, turn my power on, they lay down, they get adjusted, they get out. Right. And not in a mean way, but they just know, like, thanks, you did what I needed and what I couldn't do myself. And if they want to get rubbed and heated and iced or whatever, they can go do that stuff at home, because they feel they need it. Yeah. I don't do that to them anymore. Cool. 1 year. 1 year. The biggest thing, I'll tell you, here's the roadmap. Everybody you meet, you just open your mouth to, and you invite them to come, and you promise them they've never been to anybody like you, and you will make it work regardless of whatever their financial ability is. Okay. You really do that. Okay. Because I looked at, if I got $60 from a family, it's more than I had before. Right. Now, my fee, no, that's not my fee. But that's more than I would have before. Exactly. Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's great. Is there any last piece of advice you'd want to give our viewers or myself regarding practicing more in the love concept or the idea that you're talking about and getting out of this mentality of, I don't know, for lack of better words, business? Well, and that's another one where I've had probably 15 coaches over the years and great guys, and most of them would tell me, you are in a business to make money. And I've always said that. When I believed it for a while. I read the E-Myth and I did all these different things, and I would crunch numbers and I would say, well, I have to make this much per patient in order to make my overhead. Right. And all I can tell you is that when I ran a business, I struggled, it was hard, and I didn't have a bank account that was filled with money. Okay. When I stopped running a business and I began to live my life purpose and run a ministry, if you will, then the bank account went up, serving people went up, and life became much simpler. Right. And that book, Real Love, allowed me to stop judging and resenting, and it allowed me to kind of, what I tell people is kind of my understanding of that book is after you read it, you feel like you're the only adult in a world full of 4-year-olds. And I don't mean that in putting the other people down, but if a 4-year-old said, I want to quit my plan, you'd be like, oh, okay, little Johnny, you're so cute. You wouldn't resent Johnny. You wouldn't get mad at Johnny. You would just know he's making a bad decision, and you would love him, and you're like, okay, buddy. Or if Luke were to say, Daddy, I hate you. Yeah. You'd be like, okay, all right, buddy. Well, later. You wouldn't take it to heart. You would have more tenderness and more mercy towards them. Yes. And this book allows you to have that towards everybody because you get to see. Well, did I tell you this analogy? I'll finish with this analogy. Okay. There's a story in the book. There was a story about maybe you go home at lunch. Yeah, you've got a beautiful condo. You go get next to your beautiful wife who's in the pool, which you showed us her in her bikini in your last in your last video. But she's at the pool sunning, and you're dressed up for work, and you've got on your jeans and everything, and all of a sudden someone starts splashing you, and you're like, who is splashing me? And you're a pretty cool guy, so you don't get too upset at first, but then they soak you. I mean, you're soaked from the waist down.
Right.
And now you're also a pretty big guy, so you're like, this must be some idiot to do this to me. What are they doing? And about the time you get ready to get up, another big splash just douses you. Your glasses are soaked and everything. And you're like, I'm going to go show this person what I'm thinking right now because I got to go back to work, and they just ruined my afternoon. And when you get up and look in the pool, it's someone that's drowning.
Right.
And instantly you go from judgment and anger and frustration to compassion and concern and love. And that's what that book allows you to do. When you can see the motives behind other people, you can say, you know what? They're scared, or they're hurt, or they've never had anybody take care of them like this before. And the worst thing we can do, in my estimation, is to put more barriers on them and more, here's your fee, here's your this, here's that. That's pushing them underwater.
Right.
It's like, let's let them out of the water. Let's help them up. And be real honest and say, why is it that you're having to leave?
Okay.
And let them speak honestly. And you'll get some of your best mentors and your best coaches from those people. They'll tell you, so you don't have to learn that lesson with the next person.
Right. Cool. I love it. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing these ideas. I know we've talked a lot about them in the past and probably will into the future because it's not something that we can stop talking about.
Well, and you have to read it over and over and over because it is not your norm. I mean, and I'm not like this all the time. There's times when people leave and we've talked about it, and I'm like, oh, and I'll go back and I'll flip through a few pages of the book and I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, I'm centered again, and I understand where they're coming from, and let me just love them where they're at.
Exactly. Anyway, I appreciate you coming on to the show, taking your time, Kevin. You guys have just been rocked by Kevin Hay. And until next time, be great, be awesome, and keep rocking Principal Chiropractic.